Do you know what happens when you raise a child without empathy, without any sense at all that other people matter or that anything matters beyond themselves? When you raise a child believing that they're so great, they have no reason to try to be good. When they are so entitled that the idea of lifting a finger for another human being because they're the only ones who deserve anything is beyond their comprehension. You get Donald Trump and Elon Musk, and a whole bunch of other people we're just getting to know. The toll these two failures of human beings are taking on our government, on our democracy, on the people who have dedicated their lives to making our lives better is unspeakable. So as we go through all of this together, let's remember that there are thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people who actually understand what service is, who understand what sacrifice is, who understand what real loyalty means. Donald Trump and Elon Musk are not among them. Let's dive in. Good evening and welcome to tonight's episode of Mary Trump Live. It is great to have you here. It's going to be a short show today because nothing happened. Yeah, I know that joke is already old, isn't it? I will not tell it again. All right, we are going to start with a meeting between Donald and the also execrable Benjamin Netanyahu, of Prime Minister of Israel. They met at the White House where Donald proposed permanent displacement of Gazans. I am biting my tongue right now. This came shortly after Donald said there were, quote unquote, no guarantees that the Gaza ceasefire between Israel and Hamas will hold. He suggested relocating 2.2 million residents of Gaza's residents to a, quote, good, fresh, beautiful piece of land, unquote, rather than allowing them to return to their homes. And instead of helping them rebuild from the rubble largely created by Israel with a not inconsiderable help of the United States. This is, as you can imagine, raised alarms among Palestinians and Arab nations, and I mean basically anybody who has a soul. Before Netanyahu's visit, Donald signed more executive orders this afternoon at the Oval Office because that man can just not get enough of signing his own fucking name. The first was a document ending U.S. involvement with the United Nations Human Rights Council, who needs human rights anymore, and extending the freeze on funding for the UN's Palestinian Relief Agency, UNRWA. Watch this clip.
We have an executive order prepared for your attention that would withdraw the United States from the UN Human Rights Council, would withdraw the United States from the UNRWA, which is a refugee organization. More generally, the executive order calls for a review of American involvement and funding in the UN.
So I've always felt that the UN has tremendous potential. It's not living up to that potential right now. It really isn't, hasn't for a long time. Again, it's got great potential, and based on the potential, we'll continue to go along with it, but we got to get their act together. The potential of the United Nations, and not everybody agrees with me on this, the potential of the United Nations is fantastic, if properly run. So we'll see what happens.
Potential must be the polysyllabic word of the day for that fucking moron. Yeah. All right. Look, it has potential, and it used to reach its potential a long time ago. Somebody, who the hell was it? Was in charge of everything from 2017 to 2021, and yet here we are. Just if listening, I mean, because again, he has no idea what is in these executive orders. He has nothing to do with crafting any of the crafting and Donald Trump. Seriously? And I don't mean scrapbooking. I mean, coming up with sophisticated strategic ways of approaching problems, right? That's not him. So the reason that pathetic jester has to read them out is because Donald has no idea what's in them anyway. So if you listen to how these executive orders are described, what Donald is signing his name to, it should give you some indication of just how far gone we are and how completely and totally the sociopaths are running things. He also ordered a quote unquote very tough directive to reinstate his maximum pressure strategy against Iran. Afterward, he fielded some questions from reporters. One reporter asked what might happen if an attempt were made if an attempt were to be made on him or his team. Watch this.
You're unhappy to sign it if it's Iran and their proxies who have threatened to retaliate against you and your team by killing you guys for taking out Soleimani.
Well, they haven't done that, and that would be a terrible thing for them to do. Not because of me. If they did that, they would be obliterated. That'd be the end. I've left instructions. If they do it, they get obliterated. There won't be anything left. And they shouldn't be able to do it. And Biden should have said that, but he never did. I don't know why, lack of intelligence, perhaps. But he never said it. If that happens to a leader, or close to a leader, frankly, if you had other people involved also, you would call for total obliteration of a state that did it. That would include Iran.
Anybody having second thoughts yet? Yeah. Well, we might have had more of an upper hand right now if that. I'm running out of adjectives. Criminal, felon. Whatever he is at this point. If he hadn't pulled us out of the JCPOA, which prevented Iran, it was a deal preventing Iran from developing its own nuclear arsenal. Oh, well. So, yeah, of course, he's not worried about himself because nobody could get within 100 million miles of him. Also biting my tongue right now. So Donald also signed an executive order reapplying heavy sanctions on Iran to deter its nuclear ambition. Again, another problem we had solved that took almost perhaps over a decade to solve, that with one stroke of his fucking Sharpie, he got rid of, essentially giving Iran no incentive to work with us in any capacity whatsoever. He also continued to expound on some ideas for the possible development of Gaza. Check this out.
Look, the Gaza thing has not worked. It's never worked. And I feel very differently about Gaza than a lot of people. I think they should get a good, fresh, beautiful piece of land, and we get some people to put up the money to build it and make it nice and make it habitable and enjoyable and make it a home.
They don't want to leave, though. How can you say they don't want to leave?
I don't know how they could want to stay. It's a demolition site. It's a pure demolition site. If we could find the right piece of land or numerous pieces of land and build them some really nice places with plenty of money in the area, that's for sure.
Used to be nice. Just out of curiosity. What do you think would happen with that quote unquote demolition site, which again was caused in large part, or was caused by Israel in large part with our help. What do you think happens to that demolition site after? Well, first, let's start here. The forced removal of Gazans or Palestinians, right? First of all, where exactly do we really think that Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu are shopping around for a paradise for these people whose home they annihilated? I think not. We know that Donald's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, who's best buddies with murderer Mohammed bin Salman, has talked about turning Gaza into oceanfront property. And I have no doubt in my mind that the rest of it would be turned into a parking lot or a private jet field or something. So, because the fun can't stop there, Donald also was asked for his thoughts on how Elon Musk has been doing. Watch this.
Well, many ideas, but look, he's done a great job. Look at all the fraud that he's found in this USAID. It's a disaster what the people, radical left lunatics, they have things that nobody would have even believed. The whole thing with $100 million spent on you know what, with money going to all sorts of groups that shouldn't deserve to get any money. With the money, I'd like to see what the kickbacks are. How much money has been kicked back? Who would spend that kind of money to some of the things that you read about and I read about and I see every night on the news and every morning when I read the papers? Who would spend money for that? I would say this, the people that got all that money, are they kicking it back to the people that gave it from government? No, that's, to me, very, very corrupt.
Yeah, well, I mean, if anybody would know anything about kickbacks, it's that vile swamp creature. Donald didn't know what USAID was before this happened, first of all. And secondly, you notice this, please. A few days ago, we made a video about this. He said that $50 million was spent on condoms for Hamas. And worse, the condoms were being used to make bombs. Okay, it's quite a condom. Today, he's saying it was $100 million, and now he's pretending he's just too shy to say the word. Unfortunately, he had more to say about USAID.
You're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars.
And it sounds like you're going to wind down USAID.
It sounds like it, I mean, I think so. Yeah.
So when that happens, which part of the government?
Well, I could see Marco Rubio being in charge, State Department, because they're giving money to, I mean, some of the money is well spent, I guess, but much of it is really fraudulent.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you think that spending money to save people's lives is fraudulent, then yeah, sure, I get that. Also, clearly, this is a regime that has no interest in diplomacy. So I called it. Being Secretary of State is now a part-time gig. So Rubio is going to have more things to be, quote unquote, in charge of, which is to say Marco Rubio will be put in place to do other people's bidding. I talked about this before, but it is very important to underscore this. First of all, America was, I don't know how long this is going to be true, the richest country on the planet. And we have felt obligated in certain instances to assist parts of the world that are struggling for various reasons. Some of them self-serving, but some of them out of generosity. Again, some of the programs are just feeding starving children in developing nations. Lately, Ukrainian school children have been getting textbooks through USAID. But there's also a strategic, Donald goes on and on about national security. That's something he knows nothing about. He often speaks about Greenland in this context. only because he wants all of Greenland's natural resources. But there is a strategic reason that USAID exists, because it increases our sway in the world, right? It creates positive feelings towards us on the one hand, and keeps malign actors like Russia and China from gaining a foothold. Guess what? There's a vacuum now, and you might have a hard time figuring out who's going to fill it. Yeah, Russia and China. Donald was also asked about plans to send Americans to prisons in foreign countries, because why not? Here was his response.
Secretary Rubio announced a deal this week that would allow potentially American citizens who are criminals to be put in a different country. Is that something you're looking to do?
No, I didn't know that he announced that yet, but he did. It's fine. Yeah, we have hardened criminals, horrible people. You see him pushing people into subways. The train is coming last week. Guy walking around, just sees somebody waiting for the train. Train's coming 40 miles an hour, and he gets pushed into the subway. And that happens all the time. These are sick people. If we could get them out of our country, we have other countries that would take them. It's no different than a prison system, except it would be a lot less expensive, and it would be a great deterrent. Send them to other countries. If we could go a step further, in other words, we're talking about getting the criminals out of our country that come in through other countries illegally, right? The illegal migrants, as I call them. Well, we have people that are just as bad as them in our country. If we could get them out, I'd be very happy.
Yeah, you can't do that. You can't just like ship prisoners to other countries. Like, why would? All right, you know what? Clearly, he doesn't know what he's saying. Funny story, though. I know an adjudicated rapist who never served any prison time. Maybe there's a country out there that will take him. So the Treasury and USAID are not the only agencies in Donald and Elon's warpath. By the way, they're all at risk. They're all quite vulnerable at the moment. But this is again something they said during the election. I do not understand for the life of me why anybody either thought that this is something they wanted to support or something they did not take seriously, except perhaps because they could not fathom that it was possible. They're going after the Department of Education. Take a look at this.
The White House is preparing an executive order to eliminate the Department of Education. One source saying that order could come as soon as this month. A separate source says the order will state that the White House will oversee the submission of proposed legislation to Congress to close the department. Of course, Congress would obviously need to weigh in on this before it would happen. Now, Jose, just this morning, White House officials were saying that this is something that President Trump promised during the campaign, so it should come as no surprise. But it's yet another measure that the president and his administration are taking in order to reshape a government.
I've said this many times. I'm going to keep saying it. We have no right to be surprised. We have no right to be shocked. And if you did not heed the warnings and you didn't do everything you could to stop this from happening, shame on you. Of course, Musk is claiming that Donald will be successful in this endeavor, and why wouldn't he be? He posted this last night, quote, Reagan campaigned on ending the Federal Department of Education, which was created by Carter in 1979, but it was bigger when Reagan left office than when he started. Okay. I hope it goes without saying why we need to have a Department of Education, why we need to have an educated electorate. But if I explain that to you, it would also be very, very clear why Republicans don't want any of those things. So, I mean, one question is why Donald is so hell-bent on dismantling the Department of Education. I have some theories, but here's what he had to say.
I love the poorly educated. We're the smartest people. We're the most loyal people.
Yeah, he loves the poorly educated. As I said, an educated electorate is the enemy of fascism. It is the enemy of the fascist Republican Party. And also, as educated as he is, because he did go to what at the time was a second-tier Ivy League school. He had a lot of help getting there, of course. He has no interest in education or, pretty much any of those things that make life worth living. But that was back in 2015. And yet, the poorly educated, he essentially insulted right there, kept voting for him, along with a lot of people who are well educated. Don't get me wrong. Education has absolutely nothing to do with intelligence or your ability to achieve at all. Makes it a lot easier. Donald is theoretically very well educated, but he did not benefit from that education because, again, in what universe did he ever think he had to be better or strive for anything because he was already the best? I think I need to let go of the whole notion that anything this man ever did or ever will do will matter to far too significant a majority of the people in this country, right? That way lies madness. But clearly, what has happened in the intervening 10 years is that a lot of people understood that the well-educated idiot was extraordinarily malleable and of use to them. So now we're getting rid of the Department of Education, apparently. But that is not going to go well in red states either. They're not stopping there. Marjorie Greene, who is a subcommittee chair for the Department of Governmental Efficiency, also known as by the moronic acronym DOGE, is signaling that NPR and PBS are also on the chopping block. Greene wrote in a letter to NPR CEO Catherine Maher and in another letter with almost identical language that was sent to PBS the following, quote, as an organization that receives federal funds, both directly and indirectly through its member station, NPR's reporting should serve the entire public, not just a narrow slice of like-minded individuals and ideological interest groups, unquote. Okay, so I don't know about you guys. NPR, I'm gonna treat NPR and PBS as if they are kind of interchangeable in the sense of, their mission and the services they provide to people, et cetera, right? I was essentially raised by PBS. I started to learn how to read and count and all that stuff by watching Sesame Street and then The Electric Company and on and on. Mr. Rogers. I also learned, and I'm guessing this is what probably the main reason they want to get rid of these two entities, which probably take the tiniest percentage of our budget to fund them. It taught me, because I didn't really have anybody in my family doing this for me, it taught me how to be kind and empathetic. It taught me how to share and value things that are essential to our humanity. They don't want that. So, all this is going to be messy, according to Senator Foghorn Leghorn from Louisiana, John Kennedy. Here he is in his own words. Which we'll get to in a second. Just so you know, I call him Senator Foghorn Leghorn because he is an Oxford-educated lawyer who likes to pretend that he never left the Louisiana bayous And I will spare you my imitation of his accent. So anyway, here's that clip.
Let me try to put all this in context for you. I like omelets. I mean, I really like omelets. I could eat an omelet at every meal. I like omelets better than sex. Not really, but you get the point. I like omelets. You can't make an omelet without breaking some eggs.
What? Okay. Like, first of all, anybody who says that has no idea how sex works. I mean, I'm basically guessing that this guy never had sex. And also, like, do you have to break eggs to have sex? It's so absurd. He's so vile. And basically, I think the point he's trying to get at, while failing miserably at being funny and just making himself look like an absolute incel, is that what we're going through, the pain that's being inflicted upon us, is necessary, because the only way you're going to make America in their image is to break shit. But what they're breaking are the things that actually make this country what we aspire for it to be. Because obviously it has never been what it should have been, but we have tried. What they have wanted to break and what they are breaking are those aspirations. And apparently they're doing it with the help of a bunch of children. All of the goons digging into the servers at the Treasury and the Office of Personnel Management and the Office of Management and Budget are children. DOGE's key players are extremely young and inexperienced. We've got staffers under 26 years old. Some of them are still in college. Listen, I'm not saying you can't be really good at something and be young. I am saying it is reckless beyond my comprehension to put people that young in this kind of position with the kind of fucking power they have. The team includes a 19-year-old freshman, a 23-year-old dropout who won an AI challenge to read Roman scrolls. Okay. Several have no government, I can't imagine any of them has any government experience, and some, not surprisingly, were interns at Musk companies or hedge funds. They now, without any authorization from anybody with authority to give it to them, without having to go through any vetting process or any FBI background checks, they now have access to highly sensitive government systems. The team has access, as I said, to Treasury payment systems, General Services Administration IT systems, and security clearances that allow them to review government records. Security clearances that, again, they did not get by going through proper channels. Some have A-suite level clearance, meaning access to top physical and digital spaces in government buildings that most elected officials do not have. One DOGE member, Gavin Kleiger, ordered USAID workers to work from home as DOGE and Donald moved to dismantle the agency. Musk and MAGA figures are defending their team aggressively, of course, and who's going to stop them? Musk lashed out at critics and defended the team as the world's best software engineers. Okay. I dispute that claim. Charlie Kirk, rocket scientist and also incel, and his organization, TPUSA, attacked the media for exposing the names, saying America needs, quote, young geniuses with startup mentality, unquote, instead of experienced experts who led the country to ruin. Oh, wait, so America is a startup now? Well, actually it is. I think that's how we need to start looking at it. U.S. Attorney Edward Martin Jr. vowed to prosecute anyone who threatens DOGE staffers. Okay. And now we're doing that as well. Schumer, Senator Chuck Schumer of New York, Senate Minority Leader, and other Democrats called it a shadow government. Schumer warned that DOGE is conducting a, quote, hostile takeover of the federal government, unquote, without oversight. He said that because that is exactly what's happening. And he compared DOGE access to security systems to letting a tiger into the petting zoo. All right. That's a good analogy. Representative Jasmine Crockett, Democrat of Texas, is back today to say that this will not happen without a fight. Watch this clip.
We are not going to sit around while you go ahead and desecrate our Constitution, or you look at the laws that have been passed into law and say, never mind, we'll just ignore that. Instead, we are going to be in your face, we are going to be on your asses, and we are going to make sure, you understand what democracy looks like.
Yeah, that's all of us right now. Okay. All right. There's still a lot going on with tariffs. There's, as we've mentioned in previous videos, a pause on the 25% tariffs on Mexican and Canadian goods after threatening tariffs against both of those countries. Donald did pause them after having discussions with leaders from both of those countries. And, they cited agreements on border security. China hasn't received similar assurances, but I think it's very important for us to understand that the quote unquote concessions Donald got were basically already in place. And not, all of this could have happened without the threats to the global economy. Donald imposed a broad 10% tariff on Chinese imports, prompting immediate retaliation from Beijing. China introduced 15% tariffs on coal and LNG, 10% tariffs on crude oil, cars, and agricultural machinery, and added U.S. firms Illumina and PVH Group to its, quote, unreliable entities list, unquote. Sure, that's going to help prices here. China's countermeasures as of February 10th include additional restrictions on export controls on metals like tungsten, essential for industrial and defense applications. Beijing also launched an anti-monopoly probe into Google. So this is like a U.S.-China trade war redux, but I would suggest that we are on a completely different playing field now. While China's response affects only about $20 billion of U.S. exports compared to the U.S.'s $450 billion in tariffs on Chinese goods, Beijing has filed a complaint with the World Trade Organization and vowed further retaliation. We're looking at a very strong potential for escalation, also the possibility of negotiation. So Donald hinted further tariffs, linking them to the fentanyl trade. IT is obsessed with that for reasons I don't begin to understand. I luckily stopped myself from saying what I was going to say. A scheduled review of U.S.-China economic ties due April 1st, 2025, could justify more tariffs. Beijing remains open to talk, but warns of damage to economic stability. Yes, that is a worry. Donald said he's in no hurry to talk to Xi Jinping amid new tariff wars, according to Reuters, because, again, why would he have to? Yesterday, Donald started purging FBI agents connected to criminal investigations involving himself. Yes, because he is the number one most criminally inclined person in this country. Find me one undocumented worker who has committed as many crimes as Donald Trump. The man is fucking prolific. So it should not surprise us that it took a lot of people to prosecute these cases. Let's take a look.
Internal documents obtained by Fox show Acting Deputy Attorney General Emil Bove ordered the termination of more than half a dozen FBI employees by Tuesday. The order for the review came on the same day top Justice Department officials ordered the firings of prosecutors who worked on January 6 cases. Bove says the Trump administration is looking to end the, quote, weaponization of the federal government and continue the process of restoring a culture of integrity, credibility, and accountability. But Democrats are calling the terminations and the reported efforts to oust agents, a purge from a president intent on retribution. Just on Thursday, President Trump's nominee to head the FBI, Kash Patel, said this about possible firings within the agency.
Are you aware of any plans or discussions to punish in any way, including termination, FBI agents or personnel associated with Trump investigations? Yes or no?
I am not aware of that,
Thank you.
Senator.
Yeah, they're calling it a purge because it is a purge. That's what corrupt fascist regimes do right out of the gate. Some FBI agents sued the DOJ on February 3rd. Two groups of anonymous FBI agents, along with the FBI Agents Association, sued the Justice Department to prevent the release of a list of agents who worked on the January 6th and other Donald-related investigations. There are so many of them because they feared retribution. FBI executives have been forced out starting from late January and continuing through early February. 8 senior FBI officials, including heads of major field offices, were forced to resign, retire, or were fired. DOJ also dismissed certain January 6 prosecutors. Agents, of course, remain in fear of retaliation and doxing because who in the hell at the FBI now is going to have their backs? The lawsuits allege that Donald's allies may publish the list, exposing agents to threats, while some pardoned January 6 defendants are using social media to incite violence against law enforcement. I say it again. Well done, America. Well done. Wouldn't it have been awesome if we'd all been paying attention while they were telling us exactly what the fuck they were going to do for the last 9 years? That would have been nice. So Elon Musk, as you may know, is originally from South Africa. He's a very, very, very wealthy white man who grew up in apartheid South Africa. And I'm going to guess that largely at his urging, Donald has made threats to South Africa. He announced that he would cut all U.S. funding to South Africa over alleged human rights violations, which echo Musk's false claims that the government is anti-white and enabling violence against white citizens, says the pro-apartheid guy. Musk is now, of course, heading that awfully named fake agency, the Department of Governmental Efficiency. He's promoted the idea that South Africa's new Expropriation Act unfairly targeted white landowners. Okay. The law was signed by President Ramaphosa last month, and it allows land distribution in cases of unused land or public interest, aiming to address apartheid-era injustices. I want you to just follow me in this fantastical thought experiment. That's kind of like if America had ever tried to enact the idea of repatriations for the descendants of enslaved peoples we stole from everything they do in Africa, right? So they're also touting the false genocide narrative. Musk has previously accused South Africa's government of enabling a genocide of white farmers, despite experts confirming no such trend exists. Violent crime is high in South Africa, but it affects all races, with the vast majority of victims being Black. I hate it. And so does Musk, when people let facts get in the way of a good story, right? Let's talk about the potential U.S. retaliation right now. Donald's funding cut threatens $400 million in USAID, mostly for HIV/AIDS programs. South Africa also fears being removed from the AGOA trade agreement, which allows duty-free exports to the U.S. How is South Africa going to respond? How should South Africa respond? Well, President Ramaphosa rejected Donald's claims, rightly so, saying no land had been confiscated and that the U.S. misunderstood the law. Yeah, probably because the United States doesn't understand or believe in the concept of reparations for people they've harmed over centuries. He expressed willingness to engage diplomatically, I'm assuming with the Trump regime, but the South African government views Donald's stance as uninformed and politically motivated. And wow, is that restrained? I'm pretty sure it's politically motivated, among other things. Quote, why is Elon so obsessed with USAID, a relatively small agency mostly known for saving starving kids and such? It's because USAID played a significant role in the fall of apartheid South Africa. The country where he grew up is gone forever, and he wants vengeance. Because obviously he doesn't have enough. Just a little while ago, the Senate Intelligence Committee, to its, I don't know, what do you even say, that the Senate Intelligence Committee voted 9-8 to back Tulsi Gabbard for Director of National Intelligence. That's a very important hurdle for her to have cleared. And at her January 30th confirmation hearing, she reversed past positions on Eric Snowden, opposing clemency, government surveillance, Ukraine. I don't know if you remember, but she blamed Putin for the war, and Donald's Soleimani strike, which she now supports, and just lying, just like that. They believed, much like with John Kennedy, not the Foghorn Leghorn guy, but the guy who's going to kill a bunch of children with communicable diseases. They believed her when she said that all of the things she's been saying for years and years and years, she no longer thinks. The Republican backing is secured with senators like Susan Collins of Maine and Ted Young of Indiana, who were seen as swing votes, but that would suggest that they cared about anything. They supported her after she made her completely false national security commitments. As a reminder, if confirmed, Gabbard, who is known in Russia by Russian media as Putin's puppet, and who supported the genocidal regime of Bashar al-Assad, of Syria, Gabbard will oversee 18 intelligence agencies with a $100 billion annual budget, and she will be advising Donald on intelligence matters in a role that was created post-September 11th. I hope she has a lot of crayons. The action by the committee opens the way for the full Senate to decide if she should be ultimately confirmed. If she is, and look, we know enough now. We know much more than we did 2 weeks ago. But if she is confirmed, that will tell you just how extreme the suicide pact is that the United States has made with itself. All right, guys, I went very long. Not because there's a lot going on. Well, there is, but because, I don't know. There's just a lot that we need to think this stuff through because it's coming at us so fast. We have a new chair of the Democratic Party whose name is Ken Martin, and we have a new vice chair who's David Hogg, but we can catch up on that another time because that will continue to be the case, I believe. We're having some hang on a second. I think we're having some technical difficulties, which are entirely my fault. So I unfortunately, do not seem able to access your comments, which makes me feel bad. But we do have an emotional support moment. So that's something. So let's see, shall we?
Porcupines move slowly and would appear to be easy prey for a leopard. But this mother and father have formed a moving shield to protect their young. Adult porcupines have up to 30,000 quills covering their body, with many over 12 inches in length. They are sharp, easily shed, and difficult to remove, becoming embedded in their attacker's skin.
Okay. When I first saw that video, it didn't have any sound. Which makes it so with the drum beat and the very serious narrator. Okay, so I apologize because that was hysterical. I just wanted to make a point though, without the dramatic narrative. All right, so the baby porcupines are democracy. The leopard, and I am not maligning leopards. I'm just making an analogy. As some of you may know, cats, in my view, are the greatest of all of the mammals. I wish we could have a leopard in the White House right now. Because you ever hear of the leopard eating faces party? It would be perfect. Anyway, the leopard is the fascist Republican Party. And the adult porcupines doing everything in their power at risk to their own safety. They are surrounding and protecting American democracy at all costs. The video was way too flippin' long for us to watch the whole thing, but in the end, they prevail. So the reason I wanted to play that video without sound preferably is because we need to be the adult porcupines. Seriously, who else is it going to be? Who else is it going to be? All right. I'm sorry again. I didn't get to respond to your comments. And I know we went a little long, but thank you for hanging in there. It's been another day, has it not? So we will be back. I think it's Tuesday. Who knows? We will be back tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Eastern. And again, every weeknight in Mary Trump Live, and we will work on our technical difficulties and make sure, because again, one of the best parts of the show, my favorite part of the show actually, is getting to read your comments, ask your questions, and thank all of you personally for your efforts, our donators, our super stickers. Also want to thank our most excellent moderators for keeping this place somewhere we all want to be, and for helping us build this community. And of course, thanks to my extraordinary team who is hanging tough during extraordinarily difficult times. So thanks, guys. I appreciate it more than I can say. We've got videos dropping tomorrow, but again, we're live at 6 p.m. Eastern. Hang in there, everybody. And we'll see you soon. Please stay safe and be kind.